Yeah. Well, you're like Mum.
Oh, Nick's always reminding people about how he's right. Well, yeah, man. Because I'm always having people telling me how fucking wrong I am, so I've got to counterbalance that shit somehow.
With Star Forges, Oliver Darko will be listening as per usual, waiting us to say something crazy that we've said like hundreds of times before, and then he won't tag us on Twitter, but he'll create a little bit of engagement bait.
The other day, there was a clip about what we were saying in relation to PlayStation games coming to Xbox, and we were like, "Yeah, no, it's not going to happen." And I'm like, "So what was your gotcha?" Like we said, like. The way you framed your tweet was like we were saying PlayStation games are coming to Xbox. So all the comments were like, these guys are delusional. It's like, but we said they're not going to come to Xbox. Like, what's your gotcha? What were you fucking achieving here?
Man, I feel like, I feel like the people that comment on like these brief extracts of our shows, like you can tell that they've never watched a second because like, I don't like everyone has a wild take every now and then, but I actually consider the three of us mostly to be pretty reasonable and like, yeah, because we're not into the whole console wars element of things.
A few moments later.
Oh yeah, this is good.
Yeah, like bear in mind, again, I say this. Just think about it. They have a showcase in like a week. Warhammer is exclusive. A remastered version of the original Space Marine 2. It's exclusive right now. We'll find out if that's going to last beyond the rest of this week.
This is the company that anything with Sega and Atlas, they always were the thing that pissed people off because at the showcase, it was only announced for Xbox and PC. And then a few days later, it got the PlayStation and Switch version.
Don't get me wrong. It was incredibly fun stoking some fires on Twitter, talking about how amazing it is that this is skipping PlayStation because fuck PlayStation.
Well, I've heard some theory on that.
Yikes! All right, everybody, welcome back to another Xvault Gaming video. Xvault here, and yes, today we're going to go over the sequel, so to speak, in regards to the Salt, coming from Hellblade II being announced for the PlayStation 5, and of course, we have some caveats here that we're sprinkling in as well, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump to it. Alright, so like I said, what we're going to do is get right to the Salt, of course, but just a real quick reference to the opening video here. I do want to speak on that for just a moment. Just keep in mind how hypocritical they are, just in their own context, just in their own platform, just in their own segment. You have moments later, basically, where they're 1 minute they're upset that there's console warring, and they always try to pretend to be neutral, and even though they have a bias, they're not all about that, and this and that and the other, and they turn around in the same breath, so to speak, again, in the same segment, and they say F PlayStation, and exclusives do matter, and all this stuff that they try to pretend they don't. Do you see what happens when you do follow these fakes, frauds, shills, and grifters, and people that just aren't honest with themselves? So you love to see it, I do. It's as plain as day, the receipt's right there. They don't think before they speak, as obviously stated, right? But that being said, let's get to our first post example here. Alejandro, how's Alejandro taken this, an Xbox fan here? Xbox could kill the PlayStation or at least become more popular, but they decided to release Xbox games on PS5 so PlayStation can still be relevant. Xbox ignored and of course tags all the typical conduits, the typical PR, the typical business heads here. But yeah, I mean, again, why do we have to keep revisiting this, guys? It's still not sinking through that you guys put all your eggs into one basket for Game Pass as well, decided not to buy stuff. They're not going to continue to freeload stuff. You're still getting, I believe, some sort of form of Microsoft rewards. You guys are still bragging that you're paying next to nothing for Game Pass and stuff like that, and I wonder why they can't keep things afloat and why they can't keep games off of other platforms and why they had to go full-on third-party publisher, but of course a theme here. The problem here is not these things by this stupid guy talking about Satya. Very upset about him. The dude, we'll just say the dude has closed the comments because he is into this stuff. I hope he is not around soon is what he's saying right here, which is pretty extreme to say the least. Again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everybody from under whatever umbrella here, This is gaming. Yes, it is a hobby. Yes, we do enjoy this immensely as far as this hobby is concerned, but never, ever, ever should it ever come to the point where you're wishing someone to no longer be on this earth because you're upset at what they're doing to your favorite hobby or at least platform. If they were damaging everything under the sun for gaming in general, even then that's extreme. We do have to move on. It's not that serious, right? It's not that serious. So the fact that you're taking it to that level is extreme. You should probably be put on a watch list. Obviously, not good, not healthy, not well-being mentally. Hate to see that sort of thing, but this is how upset they are about this stuff, right? But that being said, let's get to our next salt example here. Danny TMZ, right? Good for Microsoft, more money, but what do we users gain from an Xbox console? You should have been asking yourself that for quite some time. When are we going to start seeing PlayStation games on Xbox? Where did that everyone plays, everyone wins thing go? I can only see some people winning. Exactly. Why, again, do we have to state this out loud? What does PlayStation benefit by releasing their games on Xbox? What does that benefit them? It doesn't. The ecosystem that is now built for Xbox requires you and has enhanced you to go the way of renting over purchasing. So unless those PlayStation games were getting a hefty bag from Phil Spencer and company and being put on Game Pass, you guys aren't touching these anyway. Very minority, a very small minor group is going to go ahead and pick these games up full price, rather. Not even at $40, but we're talking about possibly $60, $70 here. It's just not going to happen, right? I mean, there's a reason why a lot of Xbox diehards and fanatics haven't gotten a PlayStation and they're still going down with the ship as we speak. Just because those games are available over there, they probably have such disdain for PlayStation, they're not going to touch them anyway. So again, more of your brethren, so to speak, are probably harming your ecosystem even further. And again, the Colts, the Gazas, the Alexes, the Nikos, the Falcos, all the guys that we go over, these guys continually hurt the brand, and they hurt the brand for probably yourself that might be a true Xbox fan and just wants the best for the ecosystem and you prefer to play there. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, be careful who you follow. Be careful who you listen to, because it puts you in situations like this where, yes, you guys are not winning on the Xbox side of things on the ecosystem. You don't get the better end of the deal here. You just don't. And this is because it's been years and years and years of this stuff going on, and now it's too little too late. Do we see how that works yet, right? Let's go over to Stallion83. Now, this guy typically has a lot to say. I would actually like to start featuring this guy a lot more, but I just don't come across or stock his stuff by any means. So if stuff doesn't come my way, I don't see it, or I don't remember it, or whatever the case is. But however, as you can see here, every hour spent porting Xbox games to PlayStation is an hour lost for crafting killer Xbox content. That's my only issue with the new strategy. So, again, and in response to Ninja Theory's deal, right? That's his only issue with the new strategy, guys. He's ready to damage control. He's there to pretend about this new Trojan horse narrative that, again, has kind of went on the wayside for the moment. I'm sure it'll reappear sooner than later with that new narrative. However, I just find it like, I don't want to be this extreme, but I find it this grotesque, right? It really is grotesque to sit there and be like, I'm defending this to the nth degree. Their new strategy is fantastic. There's no issues with this. Well, there is issues with it. With the previous dude we just talked about, they're upset about it because you guys aren't being honest with the whole ecosystem and the higher-ups from the get-go, and you continue to do this. So now you're continually, finally, those cracks are showing, and they continue to show with these diehards like Stallion here. They continue to show, right? They continue to show how fragile they are, and they're upset. Well, you could be using this time to make some great Xbox-only content or yada yada and whatever, right? No, that's just the tip of the iceberg. The whole thing needs redone. And again, it's too little too late at this point, but why we have to even talk about this is what's crazy. So you guys are still salty, still choosing to go down with that ship now that they're a third-party publisher full on, much like to the akin of EA and Ubisoft, like we've been stating almost every video at this point, because apparently these guys aren't getting the word that they are full-on third-party publisher like EA, Ubisoft, etc., etc. Right? Do we not understand? Why are these guys so slow? They have strong days where they're ready to go down with that ship, not a problem at all, and other days where you see cracks like this come through. But let's keep going here. Johnny Vega, I think I've seen him around a few times, but let's see. This has gone too far. Phil Spencer, you have to go. You are killing Xbox, dude. What's next? Halo? What the F is wrong with you people? How do you think the fan base is feeling right now? I'm assuming now, right? Tagging the rest of the group, right? And even Ninja Theory at this point. Yes, clown, with the whole net laughing at us. Well, again, it's redundant. It's redundant at this point, right? You did Game Pass. You guys didn't hold yourself accountable, or all yourselves accountable. I don't know what you did right. You didn't speak your mind when the time was right. You were okay with it. You were okay with Kinect. You were okay with the low settings of Xbox One. You're okay with the One X. You're okay with the naming of the Series S and X and how confusing that was. You're okay with the parity clauses of the S and the X. You're okay with so many things, but now that the damage is done, you're totally upset about it now. Now's where you draw the line. What have they done? They are continually harming the brand, on and on and on. We've been stating this for so many years. And when I say we, I mean what we would consider normalized talking, normalized human beings trying to talk this stuff out, not even using it as console war unless provoked, and then of course would poke back. But that being said, there was no lies being told by a lot of us on social media and elsewhere, right? There's no W there. We need competition. That's why we're saying, hey, this ain't going to go that route. You're laughing now. You think the value is going to overweigh the cons that are coming down in the future, but that's not the case. Maybe you guys should listen. And still, we're having people that are hard to learn this situation, hard to learn this scenario, hard to learn this lesson. That's what we're seeing here as time goes on. They're at this breaking point now. Like I said, when Halo finally gets announced, and it will, when Halo finally gets announced, I'm telling you, the meltdowns are going to be on an epic level at this point. But let's go over to Finesly Snipes. See, Xbox and Phil Spencer, this is just disrespectful to the Xbox community. How dare you care more about an enhanced quality experience at launch on the rival platform than your own hardware? Where the F do they do that all? Or at all, right? It's like you're all valuing PlayStation players more than your own. And this is a response to PlayStation talking about Hellblade II arriving on PS5 this summer. And of course, with all the enhancements there, we're going to get 60 frames. I'm sure there will be finally an update for the Series X version. What are they doing with the parity clauses and stuff there? If you find this disrespectful, where have you been? It should have been disrespectful the moment Grounded in Sea of Thieves, especially Grounded, because Sea of Thieves is more games as a service. I could maybe see that, just that one-off that's been out for so many years, right? And then it's like, you know what? We squeeze what we can. We're getting our normal battle pass and seasonal stuff, microtransactions in the work for the Xbox community for the most part. However, let's get more, because it's kind of stagnant, right? Makes sense. That's fine. But going from Grounded to Forza to Hi-Fi Rush and on and on and on, that should have been the wake-up call when it was just the 4 games, you know, before you used the used car salesman talk. That's when you should have been like, hey, this is pretty disrespectful to the Xbox community. Yes, everything, and like we said just months ago, I don't even know if it's been a year yet. It hasn't even been a year yet, but when the PS5 Pro was announced even, people are out there like, look, when those Xbox games are coming to the Pro, you're going to get these enhanced and better versions than you're getting even on the Series X. It's just the way it's going to be. There's newer hardware and architectural stuff, to put it in layman's terms. Simple as that. It was going to happen. You should have seen the disrespect a mile away. And that's what a lot of us were trying to state to you. And here we are. Now you're upset about it again. Wait till Halo's announced, guys. Just wait. Just wait. It's going to be like Christmas Day in a way, because it's going to be so much salt. It's just going to be a lot of fun, and people are just going to be blown away, right? And now, what's going to happen in here? What's happening? I didn't see this happening. When we all seen it a mile away, right? If not longer and further. But going over to Joey Rizzolo here. Xbox is done, fire emoji. It is beyond sad to see Xbox become Sega. There is literally zero brand identity anymore. What an absolute shame. Tagging, of course, Xbox and Phil Spencer. Again, what's the identity right now is that they are Sega. That's what they are, because that's the same footsteps EA and Ubisoft and Square Enix or Squaresoft or whoever else you want to throw in that mix didn't come out with their own systems and then fail after years. I mean, this is a point where the craziest part here, ladies and gentlemen, let me just preface this here, okay? It wasn't like Xbox just came out with their first system and they fumbled a little bit, and then they were like, oh man, we got to really try, or they just nose dove really hard and they just, Google Stadia, even though it was more of a streaming thing, right? The Ouya, do we remember that little box? It had all these cool little indie games and stuff like that, just failed as well out the get-go. Xbox didn't fail right out the get-go. It did fine. It was climbing a steep hill. It didn't do phenomenal, but hey, we're here to make a statement. Here's this killer IP in Halo and Halo 2 and all these other games that were exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem at that time. Here's a hard drive where you can burn your music CDs to and listen to any music track you want to while you're playing your games. Here's a new and fresh way to play your games online and on and on. And then what did they do? They went over to the 360 and they had a head full of steam. Nothing was stopping them except for the red ring of death, mind you. But they still were able to keep going with that little stumble, right? They were able to keep going. There's absolutely no reason to fail for 2 entire generations in a row, especially that bad. You can't even come back from that. Like, PlayStation fumbled so bad out of the bag right out the get-go with the PS3, right? And then they stumbled hardcore again with the great PS3 hack. But they didn't sit there and give up. They said, what do we need to do to try to earn trust from our players back? How to rectify this, how to do better, how to learn from it and move on and do better. What can we do to earn that trust, essentially? And that's kind of what they did. They did what they did. That's why they're successful. They're not successful just because they keep messing up. They're not selling super well continuously to this day in regards to hardware and software because they continually mess up, folks. If they did the crap that Xbox is doing, especially for 2 generations in a row, then it would be PlayStation ceasing to exist, right? Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? What's so hard to see? This is why I feel like it's just unexcusable for 2 entire generations with Xbox stumbling so bad, falling on their face, stepping on rakes on the ground, you name it. It's absolutely ludicrous. And for anybody to sit there and defend that, you're not holding the company accountable like you should have from the get-go. You're not holding the right people accountable from the get-go. You're not holding yourself accountable for the get-go, right? From the get-go, rather. So it's what are we doing? So it's like, they're becoming the next Sega. Again, we told you this. We told you this. Are we wrong here? Are we wrong here? Am I wrong here? I'm not wrong here. I'm just stating the truth. There's no reason for them to fumble so hard 2 times in a row. They should have learned from the red ring of death. And they should have learned from that going forward and what gamers truly wanted. Better price point, more power at an affordable rate, and continue on with the great thing that was Xbox Live. And if you would have done Game Pass correctly, it wouldn't be an issue if you didn't put all your eggs in one basket. It's as simple as that. And I'm not some sort of insider. I'm not some sort of digital trader. I'm not some sort of big-time businessman, but this is just common sense stuff. Like, there's ways to do it. You don't have to have all these degrees to utilize common sense into your normal everyday business practices, right? And how a platform and ecosystem works. You just don't. You have to have some brain cells for sure, but you don't have to be that deep into it, guys. I promise you don't. Anyways, let's get to our next example here. Now, we cannot end a video without doing some Cold Eastwood salt and having him put his foot in his mouth here, but let's take a look here. Here's our first example. I love this here. A little bit of a receipt. Just wanted to share this. Was hanging on to this for a little bit. Just wanted to have some fun. So here he is, Cold Eastwood. If you want Xbox published games first on Xbox console, PC, and Game Pass, because they got to lump in PC now because a lot of them moved over to PC and now they're all buddy-buddy with the PC content creators, and that'll keep a stigma there. Before they go to other platforms, let Xbox hear your voice. like, retweet, or quote this, because he does have a lot of followers, this and that, and they listen and hang on to every word, so maybe they did something. Well, as you can see, when Outer Worlds 2 was announced and coming in 2025 here, immediately put on there the PlayStation 5, and you know it's going to be played best console-wise on the PS5 Pro, and you love to see it. But we're not done there with Colt. Let's end it right here. I want to take a moment to dissect this one here. As he stated here just at the end of May here, right? This is crazy, or at the beginning of May rather, but name a masterpiece, video game that launched at $70, I'll wait. Just taking a step back here, I want to go through the thought process of that which is Colt Eastwood. Knowing he has such a hard following, knowing he's going to have people call him out, don't you want to be careful with what you say? Apparently he doesn't. He doesn't care. He moves on, and he got the sheep that defend him, right? So there's your cushion, there's your net. That's why he gets away with stupid-ass comments like this that he makes almost on a daily basis. If you're still following the guy, you're doing it to yourself. I mean, I would really take a long, hard look in the mirror and be like, is this who I'm respecting as a content creator? Is this who I'm listening to for advice and expertise in some way, shape, or form? Just take a step back. Let's break this down real quick, all right? Name a masterpiece, video game that launched at $70, I'll wait. I think Returnal is absolutely a masterpiece, all right? $70, right out the gate. I think it's a masterpiece. I am not a huge Souls-like fan, but what Bluepoint did with the Demon's Souls remake, I feel absolutely, especially right out the gate, deserves $70. This game still is one of the best looking games and best playing games that I've played in a while, and I know that's saying a lot because there's better Souls-like games out there with Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3 and even Elden Ring. Obviously, right? These games came after Demon's Souls. They kept most of the gameplay the same, but you cannot deny the fact it looks really, really good. And I think it plays really well, especially with such a dated game at this time, because Demon's Souls came out fairly early on in the PS3 life cycle. What they did with this and just kind of fine-tuned some stuff was just fantastic. I think the hitboxes were just fine. I think everything was great. Again, $70, I feel like Demon's Souls is a masterpiece, especially under the Bluepoint banner there with what they did with it. Again, we can go on. I still feel like Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is also a masterpiece to me. What a great third-person, right, platforming games, what I'm trying to mutter out here. I think it really is fantastic. Yes, they use some jargon to be like, hey, you can only access this type of Rift and Portal gameplay due to the SSD on the PlayStation 5. Obviously, they use some wordplay. PCs and stuff were able to do that later, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, do not ever take business's words for word for that, right? It's just not the wisest thing to do. I'm telling you that right now. However, it is pretty fantastic what they are able to do with the PlayStation 5 SSD, and that did translate very well over to Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. I can name game after game after game after game that I think is worth $70. I'm just saying. I haven't got my hands on it yet, but at the time of its release, Alan Wake 2 was $70. Was that not worth it? For those Alan Wake fans, I heard this game was absolutely fantastic and phenomenal. I think that was worth $70. Guys, was Doom Eternal, was that available at $70 at launch? I can't remember if that was 60 or 70. If it was 70, does that pertain to you in regards to a masterpiece? A lot of people love Doom Eternal. Still talking about it to this day. Was that worth it to you? I can go, like I said, on and on and on about what games that are $70 are totally worth it. I also feel that Final Fantasy XVI is indeed a masterpiece. I think the story, I feel like it's a little cut up in the story. Almost, I'm going to say, just a side piece. Almost a side piece to a tangent with Final Fantasy 15, where 15 went through development hell. You could tell, going through the base game, that things were chopped up and moved along and all this stuff, and a different type of pacing. It just really wasn't flowing well, and for a lot of reasons, so we understand that. However, Final Fantasy 16 did a lot better, but I still felt like there was some slices and pieces and some time jumping that I was like, whoa, I'm not ready to go that far into the time jump here. There's a lot of stuff that we didn't get to touch upon, blah, 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 blah. However, as a whole, I really feel that game is truly a masterpiece. I also feel like Final Fantasy Rebirth is absolutely a masterpiece, and we're not talking about, he's not saying first party games here, we're talking about any game that is $70. Do you see how much of an idiot that you are? Colt Eastwood, Colt Eats Wood. Do you understand how much of an idiot you are? And you have a fan base that you continue to sit there and gaslight and try to harm the industry due to inflation, due to the rise of development costs and stuff like that. And I'm not saying we should just take it and pay whatever. Don't get me wrong. Don't get it mixed up. I'm saying that there are those things that are variables in the mix. And as a matter of fact, there are a lot of games that are worth that $70 masterpiece title. Absolutely. Is it every single game that comes out from week to week? Absolutely not. No one's saying that. However, to sit there and say, name one, name A. A means one. Just one. And I just proved your theory wrong right here, right now. You took a lot of fire under this. This is why I took that screen from it and seeing how much of an idiot you really are. But again, people sit there and defend you to the nth degree, of course, but ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you feel is a masterpiece at $70. I understand that's still a steep price, and yes, I understand we're probably heading towards the $80 price tag much sooner than later across all platforms. However, $70 masterpiece, plenty of them. Please let me know what you think on that down below. But I wanted to end with that idiotic statement from him, and we'll close out the video here. But that being said, enjoy the rest of your day. If you haven't already, definitely leave a like, comment down below. Would love to hear from you, especially on this last comment alone, especially. Both those things do help out the algorithm. If you haven't already, definitely consider subscribing. Helping out a small content creator like myself would really appreciate that. We are working our way towards that 3,500 sub goal, so I know we're trying to get there. But I'll explain some plans down the line here as well that I'm hoping to maybe try and do. But that being said, enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and just remember, don't be a salty batch. And we'll see y'all next time on the next Xvault Gaming video. And until then, take care.